One final tune-up before the Open Championship. It is the Genesis Scottish Open this week at the Renaissance Club, and we have got a fantastic field on tap for the combined PGA Tour and DP World Tour effort. We're going to break down our thoughts on the Renaissance Club, talk about whether anyone can top Scotty Scheffler for this week, and talking about our betting picks and the top DFS plays on FanDuel for the Scottish Open. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is Jim Sannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Tuesday by Brandon Gdula. Check him out on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Find his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, Genesis Scottish Open coming up this week. How you doing today?
I'm good. It's going to be a good 2 weeks of golf to watch, although the watching's a little bit trickier. I know this is your favorite time of year because you don't have to watch the golf and it's all over by the time you wake up. Although, I think my cats these past couple of days have been gearing me up to get up at 5 a.m., start watching golf. So
if you think it's over by the time I get up, what time do you think I get up?
I don't know. You're like the whole way over in the Midwest, so your time zone's all different. I don't know.
We start work at the same time each day.
Yeah, but like, I don't know.
I'm just curious because like the early wave is still going when I wake up. So I get to see the end of them plus the full second wave.
I don't know.
That's
I feel like you're just excited to wake up and have results that you can just check.
Yes.
Which is
it depends, like, because it's like if they're doing well, I get to have a great morning pee while checking scores. If they're not doing well, oh well, I didn't have to be frustrated about it for 3 hours. I'm frustrated about it for 30 seconds, and I move on with my day. So again, this is my preferred kind of sweat. It's evolved a bit now that I watch more of like the baseline events and stuff like that than I used to. So my relationship with it has evolved. Like I used to say, I loved like the events they'd have, in like South Korea, Japan, things like that. Cause it's like, okay, they're all done by the time I wake up. I don't want that anymore. I do want to be able to watch at least like the second wave, but it's still a situation where I'm less frustrated when I get to just check results.
I guess that makes sense, but
yeah,
I don't know.
As the person who had to like go take his dog for a walk when JJ Spawn was on 17 at the US Open, because I was like, I can't handle this anymore. Sometimes not watching for me is the better route.
No, I guess I hear that. I mean, I'm always on DVR basically, so I get it. But I was also going to take us a whole different direction and say the Renaissance Club be a great band name. Then you said the Second Wave, and I was like, that's also a cool band name. And then I was just thinking about like which other courses would kind of have cool like potential band names, but
Pebble Beach. So start listing courses because I can't think of any that would be good. TPC Sawgrass.
Harbor Town sounds kind of chill.
I want to get to Harbor Town.
Yeah, I could see that being like one of the better ones. What else would there be? I don't know, it's gonna be hard to like top the Renaissance Club.
Won't you take me to Harbor Town? Actually, that's not quite the vibe I want.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Jim discovered all the beats, so he's gonna be DJing this week too.
Won't you take me to Harbor Town? All right.
It'd be like a remix or something.
I'm going to work on these new background sounds in StreamYard. We're going to find one that works well for Harbor Town. But I also want you to think what kind of vibe we want for Renaissance Club and Second Wave. And I'll workshop that throughout the show. We'll find a way to make that idealized for you.
Yeah. I mean, we had Philadelphia Cricket Club too, but I guess that's just a little too much club, so it kind of just makes it automatically feel like it could be a band name.
Philadelphia Cricket Club could bang though. I bet they go hard.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna workshop this. I'll find the right vibe for them at some point today. No guarantees, but I'm guaranteeing it.
If you want, just start throwing out some music to lay it down. I'm sure why not? We got to try stuff. We've been doing this for 8 years now, so
probably, yeah. Don't you worry. I'll find some time to integrate some sick beats to the show at some point. Our other job outside of finding sick beats for Second Wave and the Renaissance Club is to break down the Genesis Scottish Open, lay out our best bets at FanDuel Sportsbook, and top DFS plays for this week as well. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Next week, of course, we're going to break down the Open Championship in full. I have not discussed this with Brandon yet, but I assume we'll be doing 2 shows next week as well as we've done for the previous majors. He's not shaking his head vehemently no. So 2 shows next week over on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Monday, breaking down top DFS picks and our favorite win bets for the Open Championship. Tuesday, the full betting breakdown over on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. But as always, these shows on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. So go subscribe there. Leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those who checking out YouTube as always, and drop your picks of the week in the comment section as well. FanDuel, because nothing says summer fun like adding excitement to the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I should add background music for this to make it more fun. Let's go with night driving, whatever that is. Summer sports are calling your name. That's too boring. All right, into space. We're going to try that instead. Summer sports are calling your name. Baseball under the stadium lights. Golf on pristine green fairways. Soccer matches with world-class goals, and in all the action-packed moments in between. This is so distracting for someone with ADHD. You were going to spend all day following your favorite sports on your phone anyway. Might as well make it more thrilling with FanDuel. Open the app today to see the daily promotions new to FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today to get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, for 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit Gambling Helpline ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's take a look now at the Genesis Scottish Open and break down the Renaissance Club. It is a 7,282-yard par 70 course. This will be the 7th time the Genesis Scottish Open has been played at this course, and the 4th time it has been a joint venture between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. We did see good fields before then as well. I think Rory played it one year before, switched over to, so it wasn't like bad fields back when it was just the DP World Tour, but still really good fields the past 3 years. This will, again, be a regular PGA Tour event in terms of the cut rules. Top 65 plus ties made the cut after the first 2 rounds, and there are 156 golfers in the field for this week. Brandon, we've seen this course the past 3 years. Some good data to look at here. What have you seen when you dug into the data on the Renaissance Club?
Yeah, I mean, a good number of PGA Tour players going over to play this event to get some prep for the Open in the past. It's been obviously much more so the case over the last 3 years. There's been a co-sponsored or co-sanctioned event between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. As far as like the course itself, it's tricky, and we're going to deal with this a little bit next week too, because it's just such a different style. And, you know, I'm really not a golf course expert. I wouldn't put that as like my super strength. I also especially would say like I'm not a links golf expert by any means. This course is relatively new, and it's not the truest links test necessarily, but whenever you get into these types of golf courses that aren't, I'll just say they're specifically not like an American style of golf where you can play it low and play it on the ground, whereas virtually like every course that we see on the PGA Tour, it's about hitting it high and far and then hitting it high into greens, basically. Once we start looking at courses that are just radically different, what we end up dealing with is a lack of good data, or large samples of data. And while the sample here has sort of grown over the last 3 years, and we've got some strokes gain data before that, realistically, this type of golf kind of allows different players to play well. And so whenever you just run kind of a correlation of like, okay, strokes gain total, how does distance, accuracy, approach, whatever, how do these stats kind of correlate like in comparison to other courses, tour average stuff? What I end up seeing often is that it's a bit of a wash and that these tend to play pretty similar to the PGA Tour average. But I think it's more that you can play it slightly different ways. Now, there are some caveats here and some things that we can kind of dig into. But overall, I'm just sort of putting it up front, lampshading the fact that I do find it difficult to build like a good stats model for such a different test of golf. And even things like strokes gain approach, as you build it up on American courses for the most part, and then you go play like what is being within 30 yards of a green in Scotland mean compared to Connecticut. Like it's kind of a different test. So I just want to put that on Front Street. With that said, there are a couple things that we can kind of take away here. Firstly, it's a bit of a different setup for a par 70 with the 5 par 3s and the 3 par 5s. And what you kind of see from that perspective is we get a lot of longer shots, proximity shots from 175 plus yards, just due to the nature of like kind of a strange number of par 3s. But overall, if you look at the hole by hole, there are a couple short holes, but the vast majority of holes at this course are kind of average relative to par or long. So having distance is going to be helpful much more often than not. And for the most part, it's not penalizing to miss. You do not want to be in bunkers, whether really fairway or green side based on the stats. But that puts an emphasis to me on ball striking with a specific emphasis off the tee on driving distance. So long off the tee and a good iron player is going to have a lot of success here more often than not. If you go back and look at past winners here, it's kind of a lot of, bigger names, frankly. Robert McIntyre last year beating out Adam Scott, who we know is a great ball striker. Rory McIlroy beat out Robert McIntyre the year prior. Xander Schauffele won. Kurt Kitayama was runner-up. We know he's a tee to green guy. But then like Minwoo Lee, back the year before this became a PGA Tour event as well, we know he just hits it far. Basically, he's got some creativity around the green, sure. But for the most part, I want ball striking and I want some putting, because realistically, the one thing you can't do is be in these bunkers. They're really, really difficult. Data Golf has a great course table tool, and it digs into stuff. You don't want to be in bunkers, but specifically too, interestingly, this course, Renaissance Club, has rated out as the toughest course each of the last 3 years. So relative to every course played in that calendar year, the toughest course to gain strokes putting from within 5 feet. They're fescue greens. They're just a different surface. And it's also it's been top 12 in difficulty on putts from 5 to 15 feet. So what does that kind of tell us? Does that mean it's too difficult to putt, so putting doesn't matter, or it's difficult to putt, so look at the better putters? Well, I pulled up who's actually putted well here over the last 6 years in total. And for the most part, it's the stronger putters who tend to pop. And now it's a lot of European Tour guys, DP World Tour, if you look at the full sample, but some notable names that kind of jump off the page from a PGA standpoint. Matt Fitzpatrick, we know, good putter. Mav McNeely, Adam Scott's there as well. I don't think he's a bad putter by any means. Taylor Moore, great putter. Xander Schauffele's up there. Tom Hoagie does make it, but like Sam Burns, like I think that putting is going to be key. These are large greens. I don't have a specific green size this week that I could find, but longer putts, 3-putt avoidance. So it's not a super overall test because I'm willing to kind of overlook some around the green. But that's honestly because if you're in bunkers, you're probably struggling with your ball striking. So that was a lot. It's a bit more than I typically get into, but I think this week in particular, it's a different test of golf in a lot of ways. It's going to be very similar to how I sort of approach things next week. But ultimately, I want guys who have some distance and are great ball strikers. So strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis on distance, strokes gained approach, proximity, or strokes gained per shot from 175 plus. And then I want strokes gained putting this week. That's what I'm looking for.
You mentioned that's a very different test of golf than what we see other times. But you also mentioned that it's like not strictly a traditional like links course in some ways. So this kind of bleeds into the Renaissance Club history discussion. How much does history on links courses matter for you when you're trying to identify which golfers you want to bet on or use in DFS this week?
This is always tricky because for the names that we know week in, week out, they go play this different style. They're playing against, a lot of names that are going to be foreign, even to us, this week, just not like podcast names in the sense of like the term household names. They're not really like podcast names that we discuss a lot. But at the same time, you look at who's won. It's like, yeah, it's been Robert McIntyre, Rory McIlroy. Would make sense. They play well, but like Xander Schauffele, he's played links golf. But we've also seen like Colin Morikawa go from never playing links golf to winning an Open Championship in a quick turnaround. So it is difficult. I like it as a bit of a tiebreaker. I want to see some course history. If I don't, it gives me a little bit of pause. And frankly, I'm willing to use that because there are a lot of names to kind of whittle down this week. It's a great field leading into a major. So if I see really bad form or a lack of form, I got to do a little bit more digging to see how much I like things beyond that. But maybe this answers your question. When I pull up golfers, event logs on Data Golf, I have the Renaissance Club pulled up, those past results, but I'm also filtering in the Open Championship just out of curiosity to see. And so I like to see it. I'm putting some emphasis on it, but it's not necessarily the only thing I'm looking at. With that said, a lot of names on this list that we're talking about are of interest to me this week.
So let's go through those names that are of interest this week. As guys who have done well at the Renaissance Club in the past, who stands out to you when you dig into the data here?
So we have 6 years of data if we include the DP World Tour, but I capped things at 5 years, so I didn't really feel the need to extend and do that 6th year. And so I look at the last 5 years of cumulative strokes gained numbers at a particular course, and leading the way this week is Tommy Fleetwood. Boy, it would be something if Fleetwood gets a PGA Tour win in Scotland
on US soil, so it's fine.
And like, how do we factor that in?
Like, is the narrative a PGA Tour event or is it on US soil? Like, which narrative? Because like he hasn't won the Canadian Open either, so I guess I don't know.
It's going to depend on.
But he's won a lot of DP World Tour events. I guess back in the day, the Euro Tour. So it's like,
yeah,
the narratives they hurt.
Look, if you like Tommy, which I don't know how people wouldn't like Tommy.
Yeah.
Frankly, if you like him, you're gonna say, "Oh, he's got a PGA Tour win." If you
did you bet on the Travelers, maybe you don't like him then. That's the kind of, I guess, the one route maybe.
But he's played here 5 straight years. He's finished top 6 in 3 of those starts, made all 5 cuts. The worst finish he's had is T35. Recent form's red hot. Has not played since a devastating, very, very devastating T2 at the Travelers in late June. And you know what? I'm just going to say it so it's documented somewhere. We can't be certain that... No, I shouldn't say that. I'll say it because it's clearly a bit. Do we think Tommy Fleetwood loves the Ryder Cup so much that he was hoping Keegan could win to get the turmoil going on the American side?
For when Keegan picks himself?
So it's like, hey, Keegan, you got to pick yourself.
But
There's
that would increase the odds that
infighting.
Keegan qualifies on points, in which case he wouldn't pick
He's
himself.
kind of pretty far away from that still.
Yeah.
So like,
true.
I think it would. I'm just saying. I feel so gutted for Tommy.
It's funny you almost didn't say that because it's very obviously a joke.
Yeah, but I don't like to discuss like, hey, maybe he didn't win on purpose.
Oh, okay. I get you. Yeah.
That's it's still gutting to think about. And again, I think it's that like kind of perspective, that Rorschach test of how you view Tommy Fleetwood. Like, did he kind of choke, or, and then it's one of those, like, if he wasn't playing so well, he wouldn't have been in that position, and we wouldn't have noticed if he was 15th and hit, pitching wedge instead of 9-iron or whatever it was, came up short, whatever. It's the same thing as like Xander and like Colin Morikawa. It's like, we notice because they're in contention and good. That's a good thing. So for me, I'm just going to put it out there. I understand if people are like, I'm done with Tommy Fleetwood in terms of winning golf events. I like him this week.
At 22?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know what to add to your picks. Okay. We'll talk more about that later.
Hey, what's not to like? And all you can say is that he hasn't done it. And I don't abide by that logic.
I will let you talk me into that later on. Okay. Who else has played well here at this course?
Robert McIntyre missed the cut here in 2019 and again in 2022. Other than that, T14, T18, second and first. So top two, 2 straight years at this course in his home country. So he's basically lost to just Rory over the last 2 years, one time. Solo second at the U.S. Open, T17 at the Travelers. Form's good. Win on DFS is rough this week because we got Scotty Scheffler at an elevated salary, 13.6 if memory serves.
9
for 13.9.
Yeah.
Okay. Like Robert McIntyre's salary is 11,400 on FanDuel. I just don't know how I'm going to get to something like that. But in terms of outright odds at 33-1, like that's a different conversation. But I'm sure we're going to talk about Robert McIntyre more, unless you want to pause on him specifically.
No, I agree. We'll probably discuss him at some point.
All right. Thomas Dietrich's next up. 9,500 is the salary. 6 for 6 made cuts. So he's actually the only player in the field with 24 rounds played at this course in that 6-year sample. T2 here in 2021. 3 years. In the past 3 years, since this has been a co-sanctioned event, T10, T42, T26. He was T18 at the RBC Canadian Open, T23 at the US Open. He's made 4 straight cuts, and Dietrich's on a 7-event made cut streak if we exclude majors, which is kind of strange to say, but I think that's kind of interesting. Next up is Xander Schauffele at 18-1. Salary's $12,000. He is near the top of the list despite 4 starts in this span of 5 years. T10 win, T42, and T15. Putts really well here, as I mentioned earlier in the show. T61 at the Travelers for him broke a streak of 7 straight top 30s. He had a T8 at the Masters, T28 at the PGA Championship, and a T12 at the US Open. You don't got to do a whole lot of convincing for me most weeks for Xander. 18-1, I do feel like he's getting into that territory of like, okay, he's clearly fully back. He's the number 3 guy behind Scotty and Rory. I can see the case for that, but I do think that we're getting very close to like, oh no, we all know Xander's back, so he's 18-1 here. Maybe he would be 14, 16 if that were the case, like, full out, but it's different than having him at 22 or 25, which is more of where he's been in recent weeks. Tom Kim's also played well here. 9,800 is the salary, 80-1 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. 2 straight missed cuts, 3 of his last 5 recently. Don't love that. But he was second in strokes gained approach on a per round basis at the John Deere Classic, despite that missed cut. Third, T6 and T15 in his 3 starts over the last 3 years for Kim at this setup. So that's interesting, especially for someone who's not long off the tee. Matt Fitzpatrick, kind of in that Robert McIntyre tier, where the salary from a DFS standpoint is just elevated at 11,300. 6 starts for him. He's got about as much course history as anyone then. As a result, didn't miss 1 cut. but T42 or better in his other 5 starts, 3 top 15s. Putted really well here, which is interesting. T17 at the Travelers, T8 at the Rocket Classic leading in. Irons are on the way up. I think that you'll hear Matt Fitzpatrick's name a good amount this week. And then 4 more names, 2 really worth extending to talk about, I'm sure. Rory McIlroy's next up on the list. 12,200 is the salary. 8-1 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. His history at Renaissance Club, T34 in 2019, missed cut in 2021, won here in 2023, and T4 last year. He can just nuke driver, which is great for him. And he had a bit of a dip in his iron play of late, but came back at the Travelers and was T6. So you love to see that. Aaron Rye, 10-2, shorter hitter. His form kind of fine right now, but not really where he had been in the past. Missed 2 of his last 4 cuts. Kind of some colder irons creeping in more consistently than you'd like for someone at a mid-level salary. Don't hate it, but, for someone who's got a win, we know he can play well at this particular setup. But I think the more interesting name, just who is a little surprising, is Wyndham Clark. 10,100 is the salary, 70-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook to win outright. Not the first guy you'd think of necessarily, but T16, T25, and T10 in his 3 starts here. Good ball striking, really good putting. A year ago to finish T10, like he's, I don't know statistically, depending, I just don't have this number off the top of my head, but like we've seen him be a good lag putter in the past, help him win a US Open, but the struggles right now with the irons don't really make me too excited. And then the name worth extending toward is Scotty Scheffler. As you mentioned, 13,900. I think the reason I said 13.6 is because he's plus 360 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. I think that's the number that was in my head. 3 starts here over the last 5-year sample. Missed the cut in 2022 as well. So it's kind of strange that it's not a super big sample for him, and he's got a missed cut, but he was T12 in 2021 and T3 in 2023 at this event, so that helps him really rocket up the leaderboard. Form is incredible. We'll talk about him plenty, but even talk about him more right now. He's got 3 wins in his last 6 starts, 9 straight top 10s as well. And I need to do a better job of actually logging some of these numbers, but if memory serves, and I'm 99% sure, he has been top 25 in made putt percentage from within 15 feet since the Players. He's really good from makeable distances right now. That's very scary. We're going to talk about him plenty, but who on this list stands out? Who do you want to dig into more?
Let's talk about Scotty and Rory quickly here,
okay,
because I think they play well together. Rory has mentioned 8-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Scotty is plus 360. Where would you need those numbers to be to consider them? And let's talk Scotty first. I think around 425, 450 to me is yep, I can get involved there for him. Rory, I don't know if obviously there's always a number where it's tipping point, but I think for him, his mind will be so geared towards preparing for next week and getting himself in the right headspace for that, which could mean just playing real good golf this week too, but this won't be his main focus, I don't think. So I think I'd need a longer number on Rory, and a number we're not going to get to, frankly, so I don't feel the need to actually set a line on him. But I think for Scotty, it is a realistic tipping point to get there, plus 425, plus 450. What about for you, starting with Scotty?
Yeah, I've got Scotty at plus 451.
Perfect.
So we're there. It's hard to overstate how much better he is than everybody right now, and we're going to actually do that here in a second. But it's not that far off, honestly, and to see that he's played well here is really interesting, especially for anyone who's still of the belief that Scotty can only play courses well that he's played before. He's played well here already. So I'd say around plus 450 as well. For Rory, I'm with you. There is a number.
Yeah.
I think you only know it when you see it.
Sure.
the number I would put out there where I'm like, maybe I just do it is 12. But if it was 14, I'd be like, I'm just going to do it. I don't, like you said, we're not going to get there for various reasons. So I'm just kind of out on Rory. I can't, with the subjectivity involved in all of this and just my math kind of saying it's a little too short at 8-1. I'm out on Rory this week unless things change drastically.
I also will say that I would consider it if next week weren't next week. Like if I knew that his mind weren't already there, like, you know, if it were at a different venue next week, maybe I'd be more open to Rory. But like, I think it's just a perfect storm where it's like, okay, I hope he plays well enough so I can consider him next week and feel good about him, but I don't want him to win. So we don't get, I mean, if he's like top 5, that number will still shorten for next week. It's already pretty short, which is a bummer, but
do you know what it is?
I'll
pull it up too, but I just didn't know if you already knew offhand.
I can actually just pull it up on the screen here. Let's just do this. Okay. So Open Championship
750.
Yeah, that's pretty short.
I mean, there's also probably an interesting exercise too for next week.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
if you like Golfer X, do you bet them for next week too? Like that kind of exercise?
Like, we're going to get some bigger names, as you see here for anybody watching. John Rahm, 12-1. Bryson DeChambeau, 20-1. You know, I wouldn't really, it's tough to say. Like, I wouldn't
I'm going to get Tommy off this. I'm going to get Tommy off the screen here.
No, I was going to like, Shane Lowry will be in the field, but how much does that matter? Tyrrell Hatton, I guess. But like, there's going to be a couple extra names next week. And think about that.
Yeah.
Going to probably be looking at very similar skill sets. The sample, like, and if anyone who listens to us long term, they probably know, like, hey, don't just put all the stock into what happened this week and wait. Like, I'm not saying don't wait, like that's not it, but
yeah,
if someone struggles this week, it's probably fine.
Yeah,
because we're looking at larger samples. So I do think it's an interesting exercise to kind of look ahead and just see how it feels for next week. Like, would you rather go Scotty plus 360 this week or plus 380 next week?
360 this week.
Like, yeah.
I don't want to deal with Rahm. Like, I don't want to deal with Rahm and Bryson. And frankly, Hatton is actually a consideration a little bit with the way he's playing. So,
yeah.
I was actually frankly kind of bummed because I did go through this exercise with Xander. It's like, oh, you know, he's 20 or was 20 to here. Maybe I can get a 25 for next week. And he was like 18 or 20. And I was like, well, shoot, like they're out ahead of it. So I think it depends on the number. Like, I don't know. Let's say like JJ Spawn this week at 60-1. He's 80 for next week. I think that's a situation where you could be like, okay, I'll take the 80 next week and get ahead of that. Imagine JJ Spawn winning back-to-back majors. That'd be great. But like, I think with that, but like for a lot of guys, you're kind of paying the tax that they pay. It's a presumptive tax that they play well this weekend is what it kind of looks like in a lot of instances.
Yeah, but now as I do this, I like Justin Thomas this week at 35. He's 47 next week.
His links history is underwhelming, but he was the one guy where I got a little scared looking into the links history specifically. But
well, maybe I can convince you otherwise.
Okay, I will let you attempt to do so. First, though, let's dig into the golfers with the best form entering this week's event. Who stands out when you dig into the data recently, Brandon?
Yeah, so I like to look at the last 3 months just to get a feel for everything. And as always, the real focus here is to look at golfers with salaries of $10,000 or lower on FanDuel. With that said, I think it's worth shouting out the 7 names at I'll specify above 1.5 true strokes gained per round, according to Data Golf over the last 3 months. Scotty Scheffler is number 1. Not super surprising. He's at a 3.58. Tommy Fleetwood is next. Shout out Tommy. Plus 1.76, which is kind of disgusting to think about because 1.76 times 2 is 3.52 and Scotty's at a 3.58 in this span. So
if everyone played at their baseline this week, Scotty would win by 7.3 strokes.
over Tommy.
Yeah.
Like, which would be classic Tommy.
They're based on the past 3 months, I should clarify.
Yes.
It's absurd.
But I mean, if we open it up to, the last 12 months, he's at a 3.16 and Rory's at a 1.95. So like,
yeah,
again, that's just how much better Scotty is than everyone right now. So 1.76 for Tommy Fleetwood, 1.67 for Victor Hovland, though he did withdraw on his last start with a neck injury. So don't love that. I do think he's interesting this week, but at the same number, Sam Burns at 40-1 as well. He's at a 1.66, and Burns is a phenomenal putter. Irons are up. He's got some distance. I think I'd rather just go Sam Burns this week. Spoiler alert, over Victor Hovland, but interested in both to a degree.
I did do quickly the exercise of like, are we paying the tax on this guy already? You're paying the tax on Hovland for next week already. Like, it's kind of assuming that he plays well because he's 40 this week. He is 26-1 to win the Open. So you can't get ahead on him either. It's already baked in there. Burns is a lot longer. He's 65. So you could actually do that with him, but not with Hovland, unfortunately. Because I do want like the assurance, like, hey, the neck's good. He's good to go. But that's not going to help me for next week.
Yeah, I hear that. But Rory, despite whatever narrative you might have about like he's kind of not really there, last 3 months he's at 1.64, which again is a far cry from Scotty right now, which is another reason that I don't quite like him at 8-1. But Justin Thomas also at a 1.64. We'll talk more about him as well. And then Xander Schauffele 1.51 this week. Those are the 7 names at a 1.51 or higher. Do you want to kind of lampshade anyone or just?
Well, I do think that both Burns and Hovland are very interesting. The fact that they are on that list. But we're going to talk about. We're both going to talk about Burns later on. Yes. Hovland, I got so close to actually like betting him this week at 40. It was the neck. Like, the neck was the only thing. I think his form is good enough where I could bet him at 40. I think he's probably 40 because he has a neck injury. So like, that's like, you can't double count things. But his form has convinced me. It's just the neck injury that took me away there.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. I think it's fine to roll the dice if you're there and hope that he, like, again, you would think he's got a major upcoming.
Right.
Why would he play this week if he's not 100%?
Right.
Or at least 95%.
Right.
But, it's just something that it's one of the unknowns, and that's just kind of how it is with golf sometimes.
Indeed. Who are the value plays with the best form right now?
Harris English, salary is $10,000. He's at a 1.50. He's made all 3 cuts at majors this year. There are 18 names in this week's field who have done that. Harris English is one of them. T4 at Travelers of late, but also T2 at the PGA Championship and a T12 at the Masters, more notably. Not a great links player historically, but 2 made cuts in his 2 starts at Renaissance Club. So shout out Harris English. Maverick McNeely, salary is $9,900. I don't know if I said Harris English's salary is $10,000 even, but Maverick McNeely, 9,900. He's 80-1 to win. He's at a 1.39 true strokes gain per round over the last 3 months. T5, 37th, and T17 in his last 3 starts. Made all 3 cuts at majors, finishing in the 30s in all of them. T16 in his lone start here in 2022. And to make sure I have this correct, I'm just going to double check because this is an interesting stat and I want to make sure I have it right. So I look at your average strokes gained plus a standard deviation to get like kind of a realistic ceiling rating for you over the last 50 rounds. And yes, Maverick McNeely is 6th among this field in that metric, behind some big dogs: Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Tommy Fleetwood, and Colin Morikawa.
Interesting. I would not I would have expected Matt to be more like the steady Eddie kind of guy, I guess, personally.
He's real volatile if you look at the finishing positions. But now it is kind of, as I mentioned this a lot, like Scotty's up there. He's at a 5.8. Rory's at a 5.2. Justin Thomas at 5.1, and then there's a drop off to 4.4. It's a little flat from there, but still worth noting that he's got some upside relative to the rest of the field. Andrew Novak is next up at a 1.3. His salary is only $8,500. He's not super long off the tee. His win when he kind of cashed in on some form was at the Zurich, a team event, T30 or worse in his last 3, but 4 straight made cuts. So don't want to knock him too much at a value salary. Missed the cut in T70 in his 2 starts at Renaissance Club. Nick Taylor, forgot the Canadian flag emojis here, so sorry to Nick. 9,700 is the salary. He's at a 1.2. 4 straight top 25 since missing the cut at the PGA. That includes a T23 at the US Open. He's actually got positive approach numbers in 7 straight. 3 starts here, 3 made cuts, so you like to see that. Max Grazerman's salary is 9,600. He's at a 1.16. Positive approach in 6 straight. Big hitter, hot putter, T21 here last year. You're going to hear Max Grazerman's name again. Can guarantee you that. Chris Gotterup, you'll hear him probably as well in the DFS section. 1.1, salary is only 8,900. 3 straight top 30s with great driver play and distance. Missed the cut here last year in his only start. He's actually 24th in 50-round ceiling, which isn't bad for such a low salary. Ashton Wu, minimum salary 7,000. He's at a 1.07. Super long shot, 1,000 to 1, 40 years old. But he's got a win, a T40 and a T14 on the DP World Tour since April. Just 3 events prior in 2025. Hand up, didn't dig much beyond that. Probably not going to get there, but I think you could do a lot worse for a minimum salary play to kind of get to Scotty plus another stud if you really want to. Just do your own research beyond that. I'm going to look at him more, but I really don't like to roll the dice to that degree if I don't need to. Daniel Berger, salary is 9,600. He's at a 1.06. Has cooled off of late. No top 30s in his last 5 starts. Has not played here in the past. Fearful we missed kind of the window for Berger when he didn't get a win. And then rounding out the list above a 1 over the last 3 months is Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. Salary is 9,300. T12 at the US Open. T14 at the BMW International Open. Great iron player. Putter's not ideal by any means, but can definitely get hot. So you got some options in that like 9K range this week. Anybody jump out to you?
Yeah, Novak at 85 is definitely someone I like for DFS. As you mentioned, not long off the tee, but still someone who sets up well due to the low salary at 85. In on Grazerman, we'll discuss here in a second. And then Gotterup also not the worst shout, I don't think. I'm not totally out on Berger just yet. I do think there is still a glimmer of hope, but it's been far less than ideal recently. And I have been in the mix on several of those. It has not been fun. So I think we're in lockstep there. Weather always pretty important for this week, given how windy it can be across the pond. But winds going to be much lower Friday than they are, or much higher Friday, much lower Friday than on Thursday. They'll be especially calm early in the day on Friday, like around 4 miles per hour when guys are first teeing off on Friday. As a result of that, I would give a bump up to golfers with tee times that are late Thursday, early Friday. And there is a group there that gets that wave of Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Tommy Fleetwood. Tee times out already because we're recording because it's ahead of time, obviously, for us here relative to what it usually is. So you can check out tee times, but early Friday tee times are the ideal times, at least in my eyes. Enough so where I will consider at least a bit at times. And then finally, wind speeds peak at around 13 miles per hour, both Saturday and Sunday. So will be windy, but not like treacherous by any means as far as weather goes for this week. So can consider it for sure, especially considering bumping up guys early tee times on Friday, but no crazy outlandish weather for this week. Let's dig in now to the betting odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook and try to identify our favorite bets for this week at the Genesis Scottish Open. Brandon, when you look at the odds to win this week, who are your favorite win bets for the Renaissance Club?
You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going back to Tommy Fleetwood. Look, it's like an if not now, then when kind of situation, sure, for Tommy. But I don't bet based on how many times someone's won and like divide it by how many times they've played and see that's your win percentage. It's not how things work. We saw that with Xander recently. Kind of saw it with Colin Morikawa on the opposite end where he's played some really good golf but hasn't gotten those wins. But at the same time, Tommy Fleetwood has a lot going for him this week. As I mentioned, He's got the best cumulative form at Renaissance Club over the last 5 years of anyone in this field. 4 top 12 finishes at Open Championships as well. Should not surprise us if he plays well in a setup like this. And he is actually second in true strokes gained over the last 3 months, according to Data Golf, as we just talked about. 1.76. Yeah, Scotty's way out there at a 3.58. It's not lost on me. But his ceiling is higher than you think mathematically. And it has nothing to do with has he won. I get it if you don't think that he can go close the door on people. I just don't believe in that. I don't think that that's how golf works. He's won in the past. I think that it's just sort of long overdue variance. And frankly, I think there's a difference with Tommy. I think a lot of people wanted it for Tommy before it was as real as it is now. And now he's almost kind of undeniably in that conversation, in that second tier of golfers with higher ceiling output than he's had. I look at this stuff. He was more of a floor steady player that didn't really translate. Now the ceiling is up and the putter is a lot better since he switched. I think that's worth noting. It's all led to a higher ceiling and a more attainable high-end output for Tommy Fleetwood. 22-1 is a good number. And frankly, if this is the week for Tommy, this makes more sense than any week for Tommy. So if I've been there in the past with Tommy, I may as well be there this week. But beyond that, my model shows value at 22-1, and I can get behind that.
Okay. I am a bit less convinced on Tommy. And
why?
Because we're not getting that big of a discount. Usually when we're getting guys who have had these kinds of issues, you can get them as being undervalued. I find it really hard to call someone undervalued when they are 22-1 to win in a field that is this good. Now, as you mentioned, he is second in true strokes gained the past 3 months. That matters. There are things like that. And a lot of the second tier guys, Morikawa, Xander, Rory, are not in tippy top form right now. So like they are diminished. I think that if Tommy were 30, I'd be willing to overlook the issues. I can't overlook them at 20.
What are the issues though?
The issues are he
if you think
he might be in his head.
What's that?
He might be in his head.
He might be. That I understand.
Like
I
with
disagree.
Xander, it never looked like a choke job.
I agree with that.
So it's however, it was different with Xander than it was with Tommy, I think. And so if you give me Xander or Tommy at 30, I'll overlook that. I can't overlook it at 22.
He is very similar to Xander in the past before he broke through. And we weren't getting Xander at 30-1. It was like, why is Xander 18? Why is Xander 16? Why is Xander 20? He never wins. It's like, well, mathematically, this is where Tommy Fleetwood is. This is where he should be. And before Xander started breaking through, we weren't getting Xander, like peak Xander, like, oh, he's clearly the second best golfer in the world behind Scotty. Because that was the case for a while. He wasn't 30-1. So I don't think, like, Tommy is very close to that. I don't think that he needs to be 30-1 to consider it. Again, my model likes Tommy at 22. It's not like a screaming value, but it's there. And that's what I'm willing to bank on as opposed to he can't get it done. Now, again, this is golf. And if you think, hey, Tommy can't do it, I'll hear that. But I just disagree with it.
Okay, fair enough. You're on Tommy, 22-1 this week. I am not. Any other outrights you are considering a FanDuel Sportsbook?
Yes. If I'm starting at 22-1, I feel like there's flexibility to get back in. I considered Xander a lot. I considered Colin Morikawa a lot. Where I ended up going for my next name was Justin Thomas at 35-1. He has missed the cut, gone T60 and T62 in 3 years at this event since it's become a PGA Tour and DP World Tour event. But before that, he was T9 and T8 in 2 starts at this course when it was just a DP World Tour event. His Open Championship history, not phenomenal, but he's got a T11 back in 2019. Spotty results otherwise, I get that. But links golf is volatile. And I think that Justin Thomas long-term is going to be a good, like, open player, just based on how I perceive him as like a creative player. And what also stands out to me is these are big greens, difficult putting conditions. He's a 69th percentile putter on tour from within 15 feet this season. He's 7th in 3-putt avoidance from beyond 25 feet. I think that JT can go out and play really well. And if you want to talk about you need a ceiling to go chase down Scotty, well, as I just mentioned, and I'll also caveat it with the fact that I do think that the data this week somewhat harder to apply because it's accrued at courses that are a bit different than this week. He trails just Scotty and just Rory in terms of his ceiling, and there's a big drop off. I'm okay with the volatility because we're talking you need to go out and win. I'm fine if JT's misses the cut or is, T53 because he doesn't have it. But when JT's on, he's as good as anybody right now, and he's not being really priced that way. And so my model is looking at this as an opportunity to get in on JT this week.
Yeah, I think you could talk me into JT a lot more easily than you could with Tommy. And I think that for him, we are getting a discount. Like, that's the difference, is like 35-1 is actually pretty solid number. If I look at again, I look at what I call relevant strokes gain, which is
where's your stabilization? Where's that have Tommy and JT?
Fourth. Tommy's behind JT, so I'd rather just go JT at 35.
Okay.
Like, that might be part of why I can't get to Tommy, is like, oh, I like JT and I can get him at a longer number. I'm not gonna say like JT more straight up, because I think that Tommy fits this kind of like golf really well. But like, if I can bet JT at 35, I'm gonna take that over Tommy.
I mean, I'm willing to hear that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather go Colin Morikawa at 25 or Tommy at 22?
Man. Oh boy. Let me look here really quick. Just the vibes are so bad with Morikawa right now. The golf hasn't been as bad as I thought it was as I pull up his like recent results. But the vibes are just like, he feels like the Arizona Cardinals right now. Like, just bad vibes. Like, it's consistently bad vibes with the Cardinals. And it feels like Morikawa's in like that realm right now. And that's like a bad reason. I know it's probably not as bad of a reason as I have with avoiding Tommy, but like, I don't know. I probably would rather go Tommy than the Morikawa right now.
Okay. I was just curious.
Would you do the same
this week?
I guess you would, because you picked.
Yeah,
Tommy. Okay. So yeah, you've got JT 35 and Tommy at 22. I'm going to go a smidge shorter than Tommy and go with Xander Schauffele at 18. Now, he was 20 earlier on today. He is 18. That's pretty close to short enough where I wouldn't do this, but I think 18 is still long enough to be in on Xander Schauffele. He did not play well with the Travelers. Played pretty bad, honestly, there. But he was trending up before then. He has great distance off the tee and had great distance at the Travelers, too. It's just the irons kind of failed him, which is weird, because he had gained at least 0.7 strokes per round in approach in 6 of the previous 7 starts before the Travelers. The putting was the key thing that kind of held Xander back in the spring when he was first coming back from his injury. That's been there of late. Obviously, we know he can handle his links golf because he won here a couple years ago. He obviously won the Open last year, too. I think now's the time to buy in on Xander at 18. I think that number is long enough for me to do it. And I do think we are getting a discount. Now, you were saying like, full health Xander in this field. Like, I think if we were getting like full health Xander in this field, like actually healthy Xander in this field, he'd be closer to 10. I think you said 14, because we don't have a Bryce. We don't have a John Rahm, guys like that in this field. And he was coming off the board at like, I think he was 14 to win the Open Championship last year. And that was with those guys in the field. So I think he'd be closer to 10 in this, 12, maybe 10 or 12. And getting him at 18 to me is a pretty solid discount to buy in on still.
Yeah, look, I'm never going to speak ill of Xander because I look at data, and all that data is always great for Xander. Supporting you, probably due for putting regression at some point. 71st percentile putter from within 15 feet, 6th percentile putter from beyond that. He's a great long-term putter, so I like it. Again, I had trouble with Xander versus Tommy versus Morikawa, but I would rank them Fleetwood, Schauffele, and Morikawa this week Fleetwood's ceiling is higher than Xander's right now, and there's still some question marks about Xander.
Sure.
There's any real question marks with Tommy.
Except for the obvious question mark. So let's not forget the obvious one. Just throwing that out there. So I got Xander at 18. The other golfer I like a lot this week is someone you talked about in the current form section because he's playing really good golf right now, and that's Sam Burns. Now, when Burns first started his surge, he's 40-1 this week. He was doing so just with the putter, but he's been a lot better elsewhere recently. He's gained at least 0.44 strokes with his irons in 4 consecutive events. He also has good distance off the tee, as he always has. If you look at relevant strokes gained, again, looking at a shorter term sample on the ball striking, longer term on short game, because that's more volatile, takes longer to stabilize. He actually ranks 5th in this field behind a bunch of big names. He hasn't been great at the Open Championship, but he was 19th at the Renaissance Club back in 2023. So 40-1 is a pretty good number on Sam Burns. If not for the neck injury, I would have gone Victor Hovland instead at 40. But I think that once you factor that in, I'm going to go Sam Burns 40-1 to win this week. And Brandon, it sounds like you're on Sam Burns as well.
Yeah, I like Sam Burns. And I was going to basically say, for anybody who doesn't want to bet Tommy, I get it. Just I'm okay with Sam Burns as a result. If you want to go that way instead. But I have him to finish top 10 at plus 400. Phenomenal putter. 99th percentile from within 15 feet on tour this year. 86th percentile from beyond that. Top 20 and 3 putt avoidance from 25 plus feet this year. He has not lost strokes putting since the WM Phoenix Open, which was 15 events ago. Really good iron play of late. 4 straight with positive approach. Can gain distance as well. And 2 top 20s and 3 starts here. So I like Sam Burns. Similar to you, it was kind of a coin flip between he and Hovland. The injury was enough for me to go with Sam Burns. And, you know, Sam Burns almost won the U.S. Open, and things would change a lot for him if he had done that in terms of his numbers right now. So for me, I guess I should even clarify his betting odds, not his numbers, which is why looking at the numbers long term, they're marginally different if he won, and his betting odds are very different if he did win. So I like Sam Burns top 10 at plus 400.
Yeah, Burns in general, a guy I think is worth buying into this week because, again, distance has been there, putting has been there for a long time. Iron's been a lot better recently and continued to look good. So 40-1 for me, a really good number for him, and you like him top 10 at 4-1. What other non-outrights are you eyeing this week?
So I got 2 top 20s this week. Mentioned both of these names already, but Maverick McNeely to finish top 20 at plus 280. He's actually made all 3 cuts at the majors this year. T32 at the Masters, T33 at the PGA, and T37 at the US Open. Again, only 17 other golfers in the field have made all 3 cuts this year. Super volatile, mentioned this already, but 6th in terms of his strokes gained ceiling over the last 50 rounds. And T16 here in 2022, which is his lone start at Renaissance Club. Also in the top 20 market, I like Max Grazerman at plus 300. He's made 9 straight cuts in stroke play events. He also made all 3 cuts at the majors this year, which probably not a name that we would think of when it comes to that, but kind of makes sense. He's got good distance, great putter, 92nd percentile from within 15 feet this season, 42nd percentile from beyond that. So maybe some better luck coming his way on those longer putts. And does have a start here, T21. So Grazerman plus 300 for a top 20. Maverick McNeely, these guys have volatility. They have upside, which you might not think of like a top 20 as a super high-end output, but it is, especially in a tougher field like this.
And we were in lockstep on Burns because I had the win. You had the top 10. We are in lockstep on Grazerman too. I have him for a top 20 as well. Was plus 320 earlier today, now down to 3-1. Do still like it there because, and you talked about a lot of the reasons to like him. Irons getting better recently. He's got the driver, good putter for a long time. He's had some solid form. So Grazerman top 20, 3-1 makes a lot of sense to me. Other non-outright that I like, mentioned that Sam Burns nearly won the US Open. Did not, in part because JJ Spawn went out there and took it from him. And JJ Spawn still 5-1 to finish top 10 for this week. And referenced before that Burns is 5th in relevant strokes gained for me across their relevant samples. JJ Spawn's 7th in that span, which is pretty good. He has gained off the tee in 8 straight events, at least 0.38 strokes per round in each of those as well. So gaining a good chunk off the tee, but then also doing a lot with his irons. So you said you want ball strikers. JJ Spawn's doing that. And the short game has been steadier of late as well. He's never played the Open. He has played the Renaissance Club just once. So to be determined how well he fits a links style course, but I like JJ Spawn a lot as a player. I think that 5-1 for a top 10, and just out of respect for him for catching the 150-1 ticket, I feel like I have to go to JJ Spawn this week as well. So I got JJ Spawn top 10, 5-1, Max Grazeman top 20, 3-1, joining you there. And you also had Sam Burns to finish top 10 at 4-1, and Matt McNeely top 20 at plus 280. Let's talk some DFS now, because you mentioned the elephant in the room. Does that count if we're mentioning out the top? I don't think it does. You mentioned the big key to this week is that Scottie Scheffler's salary is $13,900 on FanDuel. It is a lot. He is obviously worth that, but it does change the way you're going to build lineups because you got to account for a massive salary at the top. So Brandon, who are you looking at DFS this week? Is Scottie Scheffler a lock for cash games for you?
Yeah, again, he's more than twice as good as anybody else over the last 3 months, which is wild to think about. Now let me do this. So I talk about ceilings a lot. His quote unquote floor, so his average -1 standard deviation. I love the just let's go. His floor, put it this way, roughly 70% of his round should fall between this floor and the ceiling. It's between plus 0.05 or plus 0.5 and plus 5.8. So his floor is gaining a half a shot on the field, sort of, if you think about it that way. Next best is Tommy Fleetwood, minus 0.5. So I don't know how you replace what Scottie can do.
Once you transition from Scottie, if you listen to the audio version, I had a graphic up that said, embrace the floor for Scottie Scheffler. I'm changing my tune about floor because it's Scottie. Once you mentioned Tommy, the graphic had to go back to the old me. Ignore the floor.
Well, yeah. I agree with that. So yes, okay. Scottie is going to be in my head-to-head against you. And we'll see. We had a 1v1 last week. We kind of felt that was happening.
It was actually a 1v1.
Yeah.
I didn't even look. So I had Jason Day, and I was like, he's doing trash. I don't even have to bother looking at the contest this week. I didn't realize this was a 1v1 though.
You had Day. I had McCarthy.
That's upsetting. Because I was like, oh, I'm using Jason Day, so we'll have some differences because he's not going to leave $300 on the table, and then he did. So, oh well.
Well, I thought we had basically. Let me double check. Yeah, it was just a 1v1.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Also ruined my season-long league.
Okay. We don't have time to dig into that, but I thought we were on the same page. But
we were, but I can't get duped by you.
No, I know, but
ground,
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I don't know why you wouldn't have changed things unless you. Never mind. It doesn't matter.
I knew that if I changed there, I could use everyone else I wanted to elsewhere, so I didn't have to worry about changing. Apparently, I did. So, oops.
Next up, I'm going. Kind of, again, back to that tier that I mentioned, Xander, Tommy, and Colin. From a DFS standpoint, I would lean... I still think I'm going to lean Tommy slightly over Xander due to the fact that Tommy has it all put together right now.
Yeah. I think for DFS, I might go Tommy too, just because as much as I dislike looking at floor in DFS, it matters more there than it does when you're betting outrights. So I would also go Tommy in DFS, but frankly, given I'm going to use Scottie, I'm probably just not going to use any of those guys. And my second golfer is going to be at most Justin Thomas at 11-2. But I do like Victor Hovland 11-1. I like Burns 11,000. And frankly, I don't mind going JJ Spawn for my second guy at 10-5. I think that's where I'm looking more so than those guys in the upper 11 or 12 range. I think that's, to me, if I'm after Scottie, I want to dip down quite a bit.
Yeah, even JT with Scotty gives you 87.25 left for 4 golfers on average. That's tight.
It's doable, but uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you're basically saying that either Scotty or JT are going to win. And I like JT. I think he can win, but it's not so obvious. Or you think kind of it's anyone's game this week and a long shot wins, and Scotty's just kind of top 10, and JT maybe is also sort of top 10. But I agree with you. I would go. Can you rank quickly JT, Hovland, or Burns?
Burns? Well, it should be JT, right?
I'm going JT, Burns, and Hovland.
I
don't think I'd play Hovland in DFS.
I think you're right. I think going JT, Burns, Hovland is correct. What about Spawn if you're saving $500? Is he a consideration for you, or do you rather find elsewhere to save the $500?
Spawn jumps out to me. He might be the only name in the 10K range that I like.
Agree. I don't hate Harris English at 10,000 flat, but that's really it.
It's more like I'm okay with Harris English.
Yeah.
Than like JJ Spawn is a very good golfer. He's shown we're talking like, I know things would change. Maybe if he won the Players, he approaches things differently. He's not there for the US Open the same way, but like he's not that far off from like an all-timer season out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, because we've talked about him plenty, but I agree with you where Spawn's the next name that I would go to until I get to maybe Harris English, but at that point I think I'm just going to prefer Mav McNeely at 99.
I agree with that. I think that it does drop off after Spawn, and Spawn's the only guy I'm like okay with using in the 9K range. Harris English is like a guy like I've got 10K left. Like I'd be okay using him. You think here for a second if do I prefer English or do I prefer Mav? I guess I'm probably going English there, but like I'm not like if I have 99, I'm not reconfiguring to get to English. I think I lean English, but they're very much in the same tier for me.
I'm going Mav.
Okay. I don't feel good enough about it to bet you on that one, just to be for the record. Okay. I think Nick the Taylor. 96 area specifically is good. I will still go Berger at 96. I want to reduce my exposure to him pretty significantly because I do have concerns about the form kind of dipping. It's mostly due to the short game, though. The ball striking has still been really good for Berger, so I'll use him at 96, but I'm going to prefer Max Graysman at 96 over Berger due to the recent concerns. So like Graysman 96, like Berger 96, I think they're the guys who stand out to me most in this like mid 9K range.
I like Nick Taylor more than Daniel Berger by a little bit.
He's 97, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree that Graysman's number one here.
Okay. I don't mind Nick Taylor either, so that's a good shout as well. Anybody else in the 9K range? There were some guys I'm okay with in the low 9K range, but no one I was like itchy to use personally.
Probably Rasmus Niergaard Peterson jumps out at 93 just from like a pure upside standpoint. I don't think you can I think the Højgaard twins are interesting from a course fit standpoint. But I'm kind of out on the rest of this range until 8,900.
Only disagreement for me is I do like Jake Knapp at 9,000 flat. I think that he's at least enticing.
Yeah.
Good distance off the tee. Short game pretty solid. Not amazing irons, but he's been a little bit better recently. So I'm guessing your hesitancy is because the irons in general have not been good. That's a very fair criticism of Knapp. But I've seen enough recently where I'll consider him at least at 9,000. But after that, it really does go down to 89 for me too.
Yeah, I think I'd probably just go Chris Goddard up there, but I don't mind Jake Knapp to that degree. I'm not gonna. I'll fight you on most things, but not that one.
What puts you on Goddard up at 89?
Well, as I mentioned, he's got an interesting game. We know he can just gain strokes off the tee and basically hit it really far. He's sixth in distance among this field over the last 50 rounds. The putting ceiling's not been great, but He's likely due for positive putting regression, 59th percentile from within 15 feet, 23rd percentile from beyond that this season. So kind of a good recipe for like a profile that just it doesn't all match up yet.
Yeah, I like Goddard up too. The distance, like you said, is very good. Bit better the irons recently. Only 25 still, so like maybe he's improving potentially. Young enough where he could still bake in some improvements. So do like him as well. After that, we're gonna need some value plays, obviously. So I really do feel good with Novak, as we had talked about before. You mentioned the number for Scotty plus JT is in the 87 range. Novak 85 can help get you a little bit of cushion there, not a ton, but enough where I'm good with it, despite the fact he is not long off the tee. He's not like actively short either. He's more neutral in terms of distance. Irons aren't the worst. Short game is pretty good. So I like Novak 85. Where are you looking in the mid 8K range or elsewhere in the value tier?
I wouldn't totally forget about Aldrich Potgieter.
Sure.
And my spreadsheet just crashed. So
did withdraw the week after he won. So we'll have to check in and see what the health status is for him.
Yeah. I think if you're in the field, you're good.
Yeah.
For the most part. But
he's got some distance off the tee. We know that.
So like that's just basically my my thought on it. Well, let me pull up. Yeah, Novak's doing enough for me. And the fact that I can't call out more names here is enough to put me on the train of maybe Justin Thomas.
Sure.
Or like JJ Spawn or even Sam Burns is my second name that I click after Scotty to make things work. So I don't have four names that I'm really settling on.
Yeah. I think that makes sense too. Any other shout outs for you in the value range?
Realistically, not specifically. Like I don't see it that way this week, honestly.
Okay. So who are your DFS loves this week?
Loves are going to be, of course, Scotty Scheffler, because he's the name that I can't really quit. I guess by default, then, Justin Thomas.
Sure.
JJ Spawn. Max Grazerman. I guess Chris Goddard.
Yeah.
Well, that falls off so fast.
I'm going Scotty, Grazerman. I'm pretty indifferent where I end up with that second tier. If it's JT, fine. If it's Spawn, fine. I don't care too much. So I'm going to go with Scotty, then Grazerman, then Goddard, and I'm going to put Novak at 85 in there as well. Just given that I will need to save some salary. Novak helps me get there. Again, he has obvious limitations, but I'm getting my ceiling via Scotty, via other guys. I think I can get it via Goddard, I think, too. In this range. So I'm okay taking a more of a median expectation play with Novak.
And this is a sort of cash game build. I think you can make a great case, though, if you're like, look, I just don't think Scotty wins. So therefore, I'm not playing him. And I don't care if he finishes T4. What I really need is to maximize the rest of this lineup. And I think that Tommy wins or, whoever else. And then you free yourself up to get more of the equity in the top 10. So we're not just saying play Scotty in every single lineup. You might be, but I do think that at a certain point, with the salary so high, in a tournament, you really do need him to win from a head-to-head standpoint. I'm not complicating it. So I wanted to kind of clarify that.
I agree with that as well. I was going to say any final thoughts. Win picks. I guess we should probably do those. Because I decided to use Jason Day last week in our head-to-head. You beat me, which means not a whole lot left to play for. Like I could technically still get you, but you get to pick first and fourth or second and third. What are you picking here for the win picks contest?
So I can draw even if I get someone at 22.
Okay.
So I'm going to go Tommy.
Go ahead. You're picking first and you're taking Tommy. You're not going to pick second.
Well, no, you're not. No, I'm saying like I'm thinking out loud because you're not going to take Tommy. I know that.
I'm not taking Tommy. You're right.
So I'm thinking out loud here.
Okay.
I could go JT, but I think I'm going to go Sam Burns at 40
as your first pick. You're going to pick first and take Sam Burns.
Yes.
Dang. All right. Good pick. I am sad to admit that's a good pick. I'll take Xander at 18. I think that just in general, I think that he's solid in this situation. And I will go with the other guy we discussed, who is also 40, Victor Hovland. I was a toss-up between him and Burns at 40. I can no longer take Burns. I think it's something I could go JT because I know you might want him, but I feel like you go Tommy. So I don't really, I don't know. I don't feel the need to play game theory here. So I'll just go Victor Hovland 40-1 to pair with my Xander Schauffele for this week.
You know what? It is. We're drawing close. I'm gonna go big. I'll go Justin Thomas.
Okay, I like it.
So I don't want to play for the draw because I don't know what that's gonna. I don't know what that's gonna lead to. I don't want to do that.
I like it. Okay, so you have Sam Burns at 40 and Justin Thomas 35. I have Victor Hovland at 40 and Xander Schauffele at 18-1 to win this week. Any final thoughts for you, Brandon, before we close up shop for the Genesis Scottish Open?
It's a week where it sounds like we're a little dismissive of some names like Rory McIlroy or Colin Morikawa. I don't even know if we said the name Ludwig Aubert. So if you have a different read, I think this is a totally good week to feel that way. Similar to next week when it's a major. This is close to a major field. But process-wise, we kind of lined up too much this week, which I don't love. But, it feels like it's going to be a Scotty week again because he's just the best golfer in the world by a big margin. But, again, I think the real takeaway, which is pretty common, is you might see it differently this week, and I understand that case.
Yep, I agree with that as well. Excited now to send you all into next week. Again, 2 shows coming up next week for the Open Championship. With you on Monday to talk our favorite outright bets and top DFS picks on the Heat Check, the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, but also on Covering the Spread Tuesday, breaking down the full betting card. Again, all those shows on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. So go to YouTube, sub there, leave us a thumbs up there as well, and comment with your top picks for this week. And also check out the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Brandon, people have questions for you on social media. Where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
And I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. We want to give a big thank you to Justin Lane, our YouTube producer, for his work on the YouTube side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets and your DFS picks for the Genesis Scottish Open. We'll join you next week to break down the Open Championship. This has been the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.